So, we don't like to spend a whole lot of time on the show telling everybody how to vote, but every now and then it's worth asking a plain question out loud. You look around at this governor's race, for instance, and really pretty much every other race contested in the state, and you hear a lot of the same stuff. Folks saying they support Donald Trump and his agenda, or they're Trump tough. And that's
Whatever
okay.
that means.
Yeah, and it's okay. People can line up where they want to line up, but it does make you wonder if everybody's saying the same thing, how are they any different?
Yeah.
And what exactly is Trump's agenda? What is Trump tough?
I
Uh,
don't even think Trump knows the answer to that question.
it's a lot of times Trump tough is going ahead and doing something and begging forgiveness when you have to go back and undo it. But more importantly, what does it look like here, right here at home? Does it mean better schools, stronger communities, healthier families, or wages that actually keep up with the cost of living? Or is it just more of what we've already been doing for the last 30 years or so?
I think the latter.
Yeah, we've been on the same path for a long time.
hmm
And again, depending on who you ask, that path's either steady or it's left some things on the table. So maybe the question isn't about who you support as much as it's about what are you actually going to do? And is it going to move the needle for people living here? Um, you're hearing different voices enter the mix, like Cindy Munson, which isn't as pertinent at the moment because the majority of governor contestants that we hear about are all vying for the Republican nomination. But whether folks agree or not, at the very least, it opens the door to a different conversation.
And
And go ahead.
sorry to interrupt. I'm definitely, I consider myself a democratic socialist, but I'm very much in favor of people communicating and reaching across the aisle. Um, Sometimes I agree with certain political moves that conservatives make. It's not that common these days, but I try to be as fair and balanced as possible.
Right. Well, and the funny thing is a lot of the talking points on the Republican side are, oh, he's soft on crime like Biden,
Mhm.
or so forth and so on, and blaming the left for the state of our troubles here in Oklahoma, and it's been an awful long time since there's been a majority from the left. But obviously we're making our points known a little bit. But what we're trying to say is, don't take our word for it. Don't take anybody's word for it. Don't listen to the one-liners. Don't make your decisions based on that. Look it up. Spend time with it and check a few sources. See what holds up for you and what doesn't. A lot is riding on everything from the governor's race to judges' seats. And you find out which races affect you and forget all the other ones. Uh, Learn for yourself on those few that do affect you and your family and determine what makes sense to you. Because at the end of the day, this thing works best when folks think for themselves and vote with their eyes open. And, like we always say, we're not here to tell you the answer. We're just asking the question.
Yeah. Well, and it's important to remember too that, not all Republicans are MAGA. I have a friend who voted for Donald Trump, and now he kinda regrets it, but he still maintains that he's a Republican.
Sure,
Um,
sure. There are a lot of people that I think maybe voted that way that are fiscally, conservative, but, they were not really given a choice other than Trump, so they vote Trump.
and they're
And
maybe socially liberal.
right.
I will say one thing, aside from attacking, trans kids, the the line I am so tired of hearing is, "I'm not a career politician." It's like if I was in the hospital and I needed a surgery, and the surgeon came in and was like, "Look, I'm not a career surgeon, but I'm a businessman, so we're gonna try to save your organs."
Right. I'm hearing this 4-year cycle to, make it work for you.
Yeah, I'm not a career doctor.
Right,
You
right,
know? That's
right.
all I have to say about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, ultimately, that's all we're trying to say. Make your own decision. So, it's been a bit, really kind of a hot minute since the last time we were on the airwaves, and a lot of that has to do with lining guests up and, school ending, summer beginning, activities, people traveling, so forth and so on. So, during this open space, we thought we would just kind of talk about some stuff. And really, we kind of wanted to talk about the political stuff before the primaries coming up this week. But we also thought we would just kind of take a stroll around one of the most interesting neighborhoods that we have in Tulsa. So, there are streets in every city that become more than streets, they become landmarks in our lives, not because of the buildings, but because of what happened inside. For generations of Tulsans, Brookside has been one of those places. And depending on when you came of age, Brookside means something a little different. Um, in its initial moment in time after World War II, the city started moving south and it became a neighborhood shopping district. It was the place you went for groceries, to a movie, picked up a prescription, or grabbed a burger after a Little League game. And maybe you remember the 80s and 90s when a lot of buildings turned into nightclubs where you could hear live music and dance till the early morning hours. Or maybe you know Brookside of today, where patios are packed with diners. There are coffee shops and restaurants filled with folks enjoying a night out. And over time, the theater became a restaurant, shops became bars, and then bars became boutiques. Um, the names on the signs have changed, but the reason people came never really did. They came to be around each other. So today we're taking a stroll down the heart of Peoria Avenue. Really, Brookside is kind of considered from 31st to 51st, but the heart of it, the part we're probably going to spend the most time talking about, is from 31st to 41st. And it's not just through a neighborhood, but through time. We'll remember the places that are gone and celebrate the ones that remain. And, Chase, you can interrupt me at any time because my memory, uh, of all of this stuff kind of starts in the 60s, really. I was born in 59. So, really my earliest remembrances are in the early 60s of the different storefronts and so forth. But if you were to start at 31st and Peoria, head south at about 32nd, well, actually, maybe a little before that, right before the bridge, uh, on the west side of the street, where we've got a big vacant lot, was the Boy Scouts of America. It was their home location. And gosh, that was there until probably the '90s sometime, but nothing, as far as I know, they still own that land. Then you go across the bridge and a little bit south, and on the east side of the street, you have BOK, uh, which probably originally was one of the many neighborhood banks that BOK purchased in the '80s. Which one exactly, I don't know what it was, but, uh, then you cross the street, and if you were to look back kind of where the Crow Creek office buildings are, kind of, they almost look like law offices and things like that. Probably a lot of them are. Those houses, those were all developed, I think, by John Woolman in the '80s. And, matter of fact, uh, your mom and I officed. We had an ad agency back in the very back,
Mhm,
uh, and, there were a lot of different offices back there and still are today. What they were before that, I can only imagine maybe a neighborhood. I don't know.
mhm.
But then you come back out toward Peoria and you have first, Shades of Brown, which all of those buildings in that first initial strip there, I can just imagine were different types of storefronts, for different eclectic kind of shops. But the one I do remember most vividly was where Shades of Brown is now. And it was
Train stop.
yeah, yeah, you remember it as a little train store. And,
Yeah, it was
and
so cool. They had, like, a button you could push on the outside,
right.
and you could just look in and watch the trains. Yeah.
Yeah, it would make some trains move, which was always kind of fun if they were closed, to be able to do that. It was just like a little doorbell that you could ring.
Yeah.
Um, and then probably a good portion of that strip there, uh, in the '70s anyway, was a Quick Trip. If you were to go out to where the, tattoo parlor is now, and for many years in between what it is now and the Quick Trip, it was a Mecca coffee company, um, which is now further down in the Old Village Shopping Center. At any rate, I can remember that, it was like a Quick Trip, and they didn't have to worry about gas pumps in those days
Mhm.
because they didn't initially start off, in the gas business. Uh,
That's wild to me.
yeah, eventually there was one pump, I think. And it was like
Yes.
everybody'd sit there and wait, but you had full service gas stations still at the time, so it was
Mhm.
totally a convenience kind of thing, not at all what it is now.
Especially, like,
Um,
back in the day, women would never fill up their tanks with gas. It was always a man who'd
yeah,
do it for them at an
yeah,
old-fashioned sort of
yeah,
place,
there were an awful lot of people that didn't feel comfortable at all,
which is
with
so
that.
silly.
Yeah, um, then you go across the street and there was, well, when I was a real little kid, on the corner, which, what is now, across from BOK to the south is, Bricktown Brewery now.
Yes.
Okay, originally, when I was a little kid, that was called the Rickshaw. It was a Chinese restaurant.
Oh,
Real, really the structure itself hasn't changed hardly at all. It was a neat little place, as I recall. Um Then next to that, you had the Brookside Bar, and that was there from, I mean, my dad has stories of going there. Um, and then, it turned into something else. It's still a bar. I think it's called Another Round now. Um,
how long has, Sharky's been there?
Sharky's has not been in that spot, really all too long. I think part of my bachelor party when I married your mother was at Sharky's, and I don't even know if it was called Sharky's, but it was a pool hall. Um, but that's interesting. That's a little further south. Uh,
I saw Billy Sims there one time.
yeah, that's right. He
He
wasn't
was like
he wasn't as big as I expected him. I mean,
Yeah.
his legs were as big as my chest probably, but,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, still, um, that was pretty funny. Uh, but kind of all through there, like we're, uh well, actually, if you probably the thing that stands out in people's minds the most is BBD, and
Yes.
originally, just that one section that for where you enter, I think just that section was, called, Patton Brooks,
Patton
and
Brooks.
it was a breakfast diner as well, and I mean, I'm talking, like, late '70s, early '80s, as I remember it, before it became BBD. But what's interesting, I wanna say it was a husband and wife, I don't know for sure, but they were immortalized by, Otto Decker
Mm,
when he was doing his, the life-size portraits of people. I think he's got one now that pops up every once in a while at Philbrook of, like, a cleaning lady with a
mhm.
vacuum sweeper. He
Amazing artist.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah, he did a lot of those, but anyway, so there was Patton Brooks, and then next to that, what's interesting is all those little storefronts to the south immediately were other businesses that BBD just little by little kept taking over, and that was grown all the way down south to, in the Raw. But before, probably the last store to be taken was a, shoe repair shop. Um,
Mhm.
but then, then you do come to In the Raw, and, that is kind of was a and is a brainchild of, Greg Hughes, who, I think went to school he's a little younger than I am. He went to school, uh, out in California and came back and started In the Raw and kind of came out with gusto, I mean, it was like he had that. Then if you back up to where the rickshaw was, uh, before he had anything to do with it, it became S&J Oyster Company. There was a guy named Howard Smith, something like that. He operated that all through the '80s and part of the '70s. But anyway, that was a great place. But he turned it into, I wanna say the first thing he turned it into was called En Fuego,
Yeah.
which he now again has down on Guthrie Green. It's a Mexican restaurant concept, and, then real shortly, it became Ford's Filling Station. Evidently, one of his fraternity brothers or a roommate was Harrison Ford's, son.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he was a chef, and he and Greg Hughes got together and came up with a concept that was Ford's Filling Station, and I think, Harrison Ford maybe came for the grand opening or something, but, anyway, that was short-lived, and then I think, I'm pretty sure it was something else for a little bit before it became, Bricktown, but anyway, now we can go back over to In the Raw, which obviously, Dunwell, uh, is the sign that's in front of it, and that actually was Dunwell Cleaners, which is kind of a funny I think it's great that he kept that sign, and a lot of the interior he kept.
Well, and one of the rolls is called a Dunwell roll.
Yeah, and it's just kind of ironic, for a sushi place to be done well.
Yeah, especially in flyover country.
Yeah,
Um, when you mentioned BBD, that reminded me of, the Berks I grew up in. I mean, the Boo Ha Ha Parade, uh, even
yeah,
though I'm not a biker, it was kind of quaint to have Crow Creek.
yeah.
It was a big kind of biker community. I missed that a little bit. But when you were talking about BBD, it just reminded me of, I don't know if you want to tell this story, but we were referred to as the Sam Fam, 'Cause,
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean, we went to BBD at least once a week, like, on the
yeah,
weekends,
yeah.
but you can
Oh, well, it was just so funny because Sam, Chase's older brother, my oldest son, so funny. He remembered people by their birthdays
mhm,
more than he would remember their
their
names.
names.
And I mean, he could probably, and he wouldn't do it out of embarrassment, but today, but there were these guys that, there's that bar area as you walk into BBD, and there were always these regulars sitting there, and plus the staff. We'd come flying in there, and Sam would just, as fast as he could, just start running down the list. Hey, there's October 3rd, there's February 15th, and just blowing these people's
And they'd be like, "April 16th, that's
Yeah,
you, Sam,"
yeah.
and
I mean, he's still there's a guy named Jeb who's a successful realtor now that was a waiter there for some
a
time,
long time.
and, I can't remember wh his birthday's like December something, I wanna say.
Yeah, Sam
But
would remember.
yeah, he would remember, and Jeb, I think, consequently remembers Sam's as well. But, that was kinda funny. But, yeah, you mentioned the whole thing with the Brookside area, and I
Mhm.
think there is a pride to it, and probably the thing that doesn't get mentioned enough, is the Brookside Business Association. I think, they have done a lot, over the years to really keep Brookside as much as it is today as it was yesterday.
Mhm.
I think they deserve a lot of credit for that. It's a very active business association. You'll see, I think it's really cool. I think they've got a lot of volunteers, and they've even got like a little John Deere uh, little pickup kind of tractor that goes up and with a big water tank on it. They'll go up and down, they've got big planters all up and down that immediate 31st to 41st sector, with, planters, and they'll, water everything and keep it looking pretty throughout the summer. Um, but yeah, so there's I mean, I always say S&J instead of in the raw, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But in the raw, that actually has been there quite some time. It's had a long tenure there
Yeah.
and continues to, he's opened it in, a couple other locations, and, uh, modified the concept a little bit, but it's still going strong. And
Yeah.
then if you go across the street back toward where the Quick Trip was and Mecca, uh, where, Torchy's is, my earliest recollection was it being an Otasco, which those don't exist anymore, but they were started by some brothers, and I wanna say maybe out of Okmulgee. They've all eventually all moved here to Tulsa, but the Sanditon family, and, the Otasco stood for Oklahoma Tire and Supply Company, and basically, they had, like, 3 or 4 bays where you could pull in and get your cars worked on and tires and what have you, but they also were kind of like the forerunner to, maybe what the original Walmart was. They had, uh, obviously stuff for cars and stuff like that, and lawnmowers, and, some sorts of hardware, and even during the holidays, I think they would roll out some toys for the kids and stuff. Uh, but anyway, that's kind of what that was, and it's changed into a lot of different things. I think it was a City Bites, which, was and still probably pretty strong in Oklahoma City, but they tried City Bites here, and it just never really took hold.
Yeah, I saw that a lot when I lived in OKC, and
Yeah,
I didn't know
yeah,
that it had any roots here, so that's cool.
yeah. Well, and I think, then it became a Delta Cafe for probably the longest.
Oh gosh, I remember that.
And then, Wolfgang Pucks, of all things, they kinda Had to dress that little strip right there up a little bit.
That reminds me of something real quick is,
Oh,
uh, Biker Fox. One time we were at dinner with their at a Wolfgang Puck just as a family, and Biker Fox came in a suit and tie, with a girl in each hand that
oh,
looked like supermodels, and he just strutted in. But that harkens back to, like, nowadays, Biker Fox lives out south, but he used to live in the Brookside area, and he would just harass and entertain and irritate people, um, to where everyone knew who he was.
yeah, I don't know if I mean, he'll still cruise along through it is out of his area a little bit now, but, he'll ride through every once in a while, and you can make reference to him, but that's pretty funny.
He used to be a bigger deal
Yeah,
because he was
yeah,
in the
yeah,
Brookside
yeah,
area.
for sure. And really kinda oddly, this is kind of a funny side story, and maybe we'll get the source of this story on the show sometime. But this guy was, at a biking, a street, uh,
That's fun. Yeah.
cycling, bike riding event in Canada, and people were there all over the world, I don't know if it was some kind of a race or what have you, kinda like Tulsa Tough.
Mhm.
Uh, he himself is from Venezuela, but at any rate, he was in the hot tub at the hotel, with all these other cyclists that were, you know
Like Amsterdam and
yeah, hanging
all
out
over the place.
after a long ride or whatever, and they're all talking about where they're from, and they ask him, they say, "So where are you from?" And he said, "Well, I'm originally from Venezuela. I lived in Mexico for a bit, and now I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma." And their jaws dropped, and they pointed at him, and they were just like, "Biker Fox."
Yeah.
So, they had obviously seen, the documentary.
By Jeremy Lamberton.
Yeah.
Funny side note is that, uh, I, provided Jeremy with, some sound bites, for the new Biker Fox documentary,
Uh-huh.
um, and, paid me and just to do some funny, like, drum stuff, some jaw harp stuff, so well, I'm like, it hasn't come out yet, and it's been a couple years, but
Well, it'll be fun.
excited to see that.
Yeah.
He is an insane individual,
You'll live
Biker
in
Fox.
infamy.
Oh, yeah.
Well
Paul Tay too.
oh, yeah. So then
He's
when you go south from actually, then after, Wolfgang Pucks, that didn't last very long. Uh,
no, it was only a couple years.
yeah, not if even that, and then it became, uh
Cosmo?
no, Torchy's Tacos. Cosmo
Oh, yeah.
more where probably, Churchill's was for a little bit, that
Yes.
bar.
Yeah.
I think that's where Cosmo was, and then you go a little bit south and that nail salon and Ida Red and all that, funny I don't know what they were prior to that. They might have been just another part of Otasco, honestly, but then they became, different little bars and music venues. Um, Portion of that during the '80s was, Charlie Mitchell. Do you remember Charlie Mitchell's restaurants?
Not really.
They were kind of like Charleston's, kind of,
Oh, okay.
but they were very popular. There were several of them in town, and, they were started by a guy that was the head coach of the Tulsa Roughnecks, which was the soccer team that was pretty successful in the '70s. Any rate, he opened another place. It was a different concept, more of a nightclub, and it was called Charlie's Nostalgia, and they had like the front of a Thunderbird and stuff would be, like the table and, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
booths on either side and funny stuff like that. But at any rate, that was short lived. And then, really, up and down Brookside during the '80s and portions of the '90s, they were nightclubs with music. which is really amazing to me because now there are obviously a few music joints in town that you can go to, but they're not as bunched together as they used to be. Like you could go to 5 different places in a square block, and dance and watch good music and stuff.
That is one thing I think we're kind of missing now, from that space. Because for a little while, Foolish Things was there, and
Yeah.
sometimes, jazz bands will play there. Even at Churchill's, which is now closed, they would have small bands play. I know that Doc's sometimes has live music, but it's usually like an acoustic guitar situation. But, that church that's been shut down for ages
Right,
in
on
Brookside?
36th.
Yeah, it would be cool if they did, like, a homeless outreach thing there, but I also think it would be really cool as a music venue if they were to develop that way. Don't
Yeah.
you think?
Well, somebody is gonna develop it, and I hate to say it, but I don't think it's gonna be anything that anybody's real excited about.
I know, I just
I
have to
think
dream big.
I know, I think it's gonna be like a bank and maybe some office, strip office, a multipurpose kind of facility. I
Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think they're tearing it down too. Um, well, it's a shame because I think the people that originally bought it before COVID and maybe had some grand ideas of keeping portions of the building and the stained glass and all that. And then, like a lot of things, a lot of projects, because of being cost prohibitive during and after COVID, that they switched gears, and it's changed hands several times, but
Yeah.
finally somebody's doing something with it. I noticed it's fenced off now finally. Um, but then, you go back a little bit more and you enter what's really kind of like the heart of Brookside. And that's like, where, like our bar is
Mhm.
and all of those things. Henry Aberson came in and repurposed everything that's painted white pretty much.
Yeah.
He operates.
Black
Uh,
and white.
right. And, he's done a lot to get some national, retail folks in, which is really kinda something in this day and age. But at any rate, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. Our bar was a place called Sports Bar that I remember most, and then it became, it might have been Sports Bar when, that one guy that was part of Eskimo Joe's. Anyway, now it's our bar and has been for some time, and they do a great business. But if you go a little bit north of that, it was another nightclub. I don't think they had music there. They had like a DJ or something, but that was called Confetti's.
The
And
speakeasy bar.
I mean, it was very, very active, in the '80s, one of the hot spots. Then if you go, I'm kinda getting a little ahead, but if you jump over back to the west side of the street and go down to where S.R. Hughes is and, like, Jarrah Heron and
Mm.
that restaurant, Malfi, that whole strip right there, when I was a little kid, was a grocery store called Stop and Shop.
The whole thing?
The whole thing, yeah.
It would have to be, I guess.
Yeah, it really would. It took it wasn't a big grocery store, but it would have to have at least that to, you know, be somewhat
Now
big, yeah. But at any rate, that was kind of a fun place, and that little in and out bit, on the either side of, uh, Lululemon, that's always been like that from way back. Even where Lululemon is, that was actually just a one-story, uh, little area that was on a portion of it was a barber shop, like an old-fashioned, barber shop
mhm,
with 3 or 4 guys in there, buzzing away. And then
twisted mustaches.
yeah, next door to that was a pet shop, like you could buy a parakeet or fish or whatever. Then just on the other side of the drive from that, where Blue Moon Cafe is, that actually originally was like at 38th and Peoria. It has come down and taken that position, and that's like a perfect spot for them, I think.
Yeah, I think they've
Seems
gotten their
like
business has gotten a
yeah,
lot more
yeah,
consistent.
yeah.
Um,
But you know what's interesting too about that is it was my earliest recollection was it was a place called, Another Frame of Mind or something like that.
the custom frame shop,
Yeah, you would go in and they'd show you how they'd prep every you'd pick a frame out and they'd cut it, and they'd cut your glass and give you all the stuff you needed and kinda get you started, but you made your own frames, or,
I
you could leave it there and have them frame it too.
I really like that concept because, uh and this is not to bash on Zigglers, I love Zigglers, but, I needed something framed, for Christmas for, uh, my sister Mallory, and, I asked them to frame it, and I picked out the frame, but it took about 2 weeks,
Oh,
because I
yeah,
think they were busy, it was the holiday season,
yeah,
and I thought to myself, "Man, it'd be nice if there's a place where I could just do it myself," and
I
then you
know.
told me about that.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, with, like, Purple Glaze and some of these
Oh, yeah,
do-it-yourself kinda places. I guess it's just the inventory or something, that people just haven't thought to do it again, but that was a great I loved going in that place, and, yeah, you could frame things on the spot,
that's great.
kind of fun.
Purple Glaze, in my memory, has always been on Peoria.
Yeah, there've
That
been
was
there've been a couple of them around town, but, yeah, that one there in Peoria is
was very
been
much a part of my childhood, and that one Quick Trip, the first one that was there, that to me was like the quintessential Quick Trip, just because it was near
yeah.
where we lived and stuff.
You talking about the one that's at 36th?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not the bigger one, further down, out south.
Yeah, then if you go, like, from where Blue Moon is, just that spot that, Blue Moon occupies, that was that, and then it was open space. There wasn't any more of that retail space that you see there, but what did exist there, as long as I can remember, was a Wendy's drive-through, uh,
Wow.
Wendy's restaurant. But then, if you go, the real showcase of Brookside at the time was that whole center there, which is now Center One,
Mhm.
where Aberson's is and Marianne Duran and all that stuff. Um, and Doc's, that was originally a furniture store called Rich's Furniture. Uh,
Mm.
and, you know, very successful, I'm sure, through, like, the '50s and '60s and stuff. But then, uh, I don't know if it was not Elliot Nelson, if it was, Nelson Kifer that bought that or what, but I know he played a part in developing it, but that whole center was known as, Stonehorse.
Oh, which is now just in, Utica Square.
Right, and that Stone Horse never was in that location, I don't think, but
Hmm.
that shopping center was called Stone Horse. Um,
Oh, okay.
on the corner where Doc's is, that was
Mhm.
called, the Grapevine, um, and there were a number of businesses in those storefronts. One of them was like kind of like a gift shop, frame shop. It might have actually been a little bit of an art gallery too, and all that center area where that fountain is, um,
Mhm.
that actually was all enclosed. That was like a little atrium, and there like,
Oh.
there were little stores around that, but, like, where, what is that? Ben 35
Mhm.
was, I don't remember what it was when it was Stone Horse, but shortly after that, it was Gold Coast Coffee Company, which was a
Mhm.
real high-end coffee shop, kinda when that became vogue, you know?
Yeah,
Mm. And then
and
next door to that is Cafe Au Lait, of course, but what was originally there was Queenie's.
that blows my mind.
Yeah,
When
it's
you told me about that the other day, I was like, "What?" Like, I thought they only had 1 location in Utica
yeah,
Square,
and they
and
did.
then they moved again.
Yeah, that was their only spot, and
Wow.
I think, uh, famously, Walt Helmrich used to go in there and eat, and one time came in and just loved, Ruthie Young, the person that started, uh, Queenie's and ran it for many, many years. She was in that location, and he had befriended her, and I think he famously came in one time and just dropped some keys on her counter and said, "I want you in Utica Square, and these are the keys to the space."
Wow.
And, I think that the rest is history. Um,
That's awesome. I
yeah,
love Quinese so much.
and right behind that was, a place called Chubby's, which was like a little ice cream parlor, kind of like that the upper area of Cafe Au Lait, kinda where you don't nobody really
Oh,
sees
yeah.
as you go toward the bathroom. That's what that was. And then, the restaurant, Orin, that was, I think Montrachet was what it was called for a long, long time.
Oh, shit. Is that, like,
Montrachet,
French?
yeah, kinda had a French thing to it. And then now, of course, you have, uh, M.A. Duran, which means a lot to me
Mhm.
personally, but,
A lot of art in there.
also, I think right in that area, if not that area, a portion of that area was, Roger Erker Realtors, which now, uh, I think he's still active in the real estate business, but at, McGraw, but,
Mm,
he was kind of like one of the grandpas of, you know, the godfather of Tulsa real estate. Uh,
right.
and then, you go down, and I'm kinda cloudy on a lot. I know Ribbons was there for a long time, a little further back, not so much on the corner where it is now.
Right.
But as you go down to that portion, and you get to the end of that, actually, there was a bookstore. A friend of mine named Mike Vogel, he had a bookstore, that was great. And mentioning a bookstore makes me wanna back way up where the Brook Restaurant is, because
Mhm.
that, obviously, the very first part on that corner was Lewis Meyer Bookstore, and that was like a rite of passage. If you were needing a book, that's where you went when I was a kid. He
Really?
even had a Sunday morning TV show where he talked about books, and books of the week and stuff. He
Oh,
was
really? Just
Yeah,
on, like, the local news?
yeah, just, yeah, I think it was on Channel 6 every Sunday.
I
Uh,
love that.
it was really cool. But then, and it was dinky. It was a little space, but man, he had a cram full of books and always had
Mhm.
the hot new book. Um, and of course, just to where the Brook Restaurant is, back in the day, that of course was the Brook movie theater. And
Still looks like one.
yeah, it kind of has that Art Deco look.
That old-fashioned Art
Yeah.
Deco,
Yeah.
neon lights.
I wanna say that that must have been a real thing in, like, the '40s or '50s to kind of build these little neighborhood movie theaters in that style, because there were a few of them in town. If there was the Brook, and then if you went to, like, 15th and, Lewis, kinda where that CVS is or
Mhm.
whatever, that
Oh,
drugstore,
yeah.
um, there was a theater that looked much like the Brook there. It was called the Delman. And then, there was another one out on, like, either 15th or 11th in, like, maybe Yale. Uh, the Will Rogers. Anyway,
Mhm. Then,
the
of course, you have the Admiral Twin drive-in.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know what's funny about those, theaters is I think, obviously the big screens, multiplex movie theaters came in and really kinda put those out because they only had
Yeah,
one screen. It was so hard for them to compete. But they were great when we were kids, because 'cause you'd go in there and, like, Saturday matinees, you kn
right.
you'd go with all your friends and watch, funny movies and stuff and cartoons. But, the interesting thing about the Brook before it became the Brook Restaurant was, and I think they did this maybe at the Delman too, they kind of fashioned them into music venues. Uh, obviously, they wouldn't seat any more than what a movie theater did, but they had a stage and everything and good sound system. And I can remember seeing people like, at the Brook Theater, just for a couple of years it was open, but I can remember seeing a guy named Jimmy Spheris there. If you've not heard of him, he was really a big deal in the early mid seven well, yeah, during the '70s, I guess. Then like Leon Redbone and Taj Mahal, a number of really good acts would come through and play at these, like the Brook Theater. Um, so
It's
anyway,
kind of
definitely wanted to back up and hit those spots.
yeah.
They
The
were important.
That type of theater turned into a music venue that all I can picture is the Lowdown, um,
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the show, but the venue. I've
right.
played there a few
Down
times,
below. Yeah, down
and
below, Duet. Yeah,
it looks like an underground movie theater without a
yeah,
screen,
yeah,
um, which is nice. If you're playing, it's kind of a lot of pressure, but if you're just there to watch, it's
yeah.
nice.
Well, and that's what was so cool about these venues was they were, like movie theaters, they had a little pitch to them, so you
Right,
just playing out to you just see the first row or whatever you saw back.
yeah, which gives
Uh,
you more nerves.
yeah, right.
'Cause if you're at a place like the Vanguard, you can only see the first maybe 4 rows.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's
Yeah. And
all
then
there is.
what does it just get dark? You kinda
Yeah.
lose yeah.
Yeah, yeah, gets dark.
Well, so now if I jump back ahead to where, like, it was for the long time, it's where, what's the coffee shop?
Shades of Brown?
No, no, the new one, I mean, the one that the big chain, uh,
Oh, Starbucks.
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 I don't know why that skipped my noggin, but anyway, yeah, we're Starbucks, and it was Payway, now it's Little Belly. Um, that all was built, I don't know when. I wanna say maybe in the '90s, because before that, it was a DX station, gas station,
Now
and
it's just natural brick
yeah,
building.
yeah, I mean, that's all new. The
Yeah.
gas station, they didn't save that, um,
That
but
Starbucks seems pretty successful.
yeah, I mean, all the it's been a very successful, little bit there, but there are still people that I know that are upset that that garage isn't there anymore, because they were
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't just fill up there, they went in there and had their
Oil changed.
well, yeah, their cars worked on, they had really good mechanics.
Yeah.
Um, then you go a little bit further south and, uh where, like, that bank and Jimmy John's and the Tulsa Hair Company, all that little bit
Yeah.
was like a car dealer.
That makes sense if I think about it, if
Yeah,
they were all combined.
like used cars, it was just one space. But I don't know, I might be wrong, I might need all of this stuff. I might need a little sharpening from people if they're listening and have stories or anything, they should definitely chime in.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, your working memory is pretty incredible that you can
Well,
remember
it's kind of
what
funny. I
all
mean,
these things have been, you
yeah,
know?
I definitely lived in that area in my really early years. Then we moved out south, and then as an adult, a young adult, I moved back into the Brookside area and have kinda pretty much been here ever since. Um, but then if you go back over across the street to where I mentioned that uh, Wendy's was, and now, like Keo and all that kinda stuff is there.
Mhm.
Mm, just to the south of that, of course, uh, for the longest time was, Crow Creek Tavern,
Yeah.
and
I miss that place.
I honestly couldn't tell you what was there before either. It
It
was
seemed like it had been there for a while. It was dusty,
yeah, it had been there a long time.
like,
Mm,
never gonna get that cigarette smoke out of those walls.
no, no, and
But
obviously
yeah.
successful and stuff.
I kind of miss the even though that biker community is not my community, like, it was cool to see them all congregate there, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Um,
they had their spot.
something I'll just
I
briefly
can
touch
remember
on.
when I was younger or in my 20s, I can remember somebody was just like, "It's okay when we get all these bikers because they're all doctors and lawyers and stuff."
Yeah,
I was like, "Well, okay, maybe some of them."
maybe some of them, probably not all.
No.
It's and, this is just a tangent, but, uh, it just adds to, how quaint and how much of a community Brookside, feels like,
Yeah.
this was, like, last year, and I was walking, from, oh, that tattoo parlor. I parked there, and I was walking to Shades of Brown, and right next to me, this woman is just on her horse,
Oh,
trotting by, and I'm like, "Only in Tulsa."
right,
Like,
right.
what the hell?
Yeah, where did she come from? Was there, like,
Yeah,
a horse trailer in
it
that
was just
Crow
her.
Creek office building area? So
It was
weird.
just a woman on her horse on her way to wherever.
It's kinda the same thing as that girl that lived up the in the neighborhood, but up the street a ways, to the east, had that big pig, and she just walk it
Yeah.
around the neighborhood like everybody
Yes.
walked their dogs.
I forgot about that.
So then, I guess we're getting ready to oh, okay, you've got Crow Creek, then just to the south of that and kinda set back was even when I was, like, in high school, it was like a Daylight Donuts. Uh,
Yeah.
and then, of course, City Vet, that's been there probably since day one.
I mean, that is an old building,
Yeah,
old timey
that's
building.
one of the original buildings for sure. It kinda reminds me with it doesn't have the red brick or the white paint, but kinda the rickshaw kinda had that same
That
architecture.
style.
Yeah.
I like that style. I
Mhm.
personally would not ever wanna use that just because 'cause I've heard some rumors, but, um, I don't know. I I like when they just refurbish old buildings and don't just go
Yeah,
out with the old and with the new, like,
right,
you
right.
know, like how the Brook didn't change its look very much. It
Yeah.
maintained that classic movie
And
theater
yeah,
feel.
yeah. Well, and I forgot something else. If you back up to where, like, right now it's Jimmy's Chop House,
Mhm.
that was actually, a place in the very beginning that gave Brookside its name, evidently. Did a little research and it was called some guy's name, Brookside Pharmacy, that
Oh,
little spot. And then, has that big, tall area for a sign, and I think that's what that was. But, then it became a Black Eyed Pea
yeah.
um, uh, and then, like, some kind of Mexican restaurant that I can't remember the name of.
If
Three
you can't, then I
Yeah,
certainly can't. We
uh,
have a Three Tequilas that's
yeah,
next to
yeah,
Shades
not
of
three
Brown.
something like that, but now obviously Jimmy's Chop House. So,
Yeah.
anyway, now I'm gonna get back on 36th and, obvious right there, you've got the church, and I'm sure that was there.
Oh,
You
Southminster?
No, Southminster's been there forever too, but,
Oh,
uh,
the old church.
the old church there that
Oh,
they're gonna tear down probably on
yeah.
36th. Those churches, I'm sure, were there from day one, serving the community, the neighborhood. Um, and then you have Elliott Elementary School right behind that, and that, has gone through its phases. That was, believe it or not, for like 20 years, a long time, maybe longer than that. It was like the cool school. I think that's where like the language immersion programs began and stuff.
Oh, like
And
the Habit Eisenhower?
yeah, and then I think at some point, I think they didn't, whatever, politically or whatever, it moved over to Eisenhower, and obviously the rest is history there. But Elliott was always kind of a cool school, and now I don't think it's as much. But I
Yeah, that's
I want to say like Council Oak is the one that everybody wants to get in, over on 21st in Cincinnati.
yeah.
But like where the Quick Trip is at 36th and Peoria, that came in the '80s, and I could not tell you what was there before. I remember the structure, but I don't know what it was. And just south of that, um, you had, like Sevco, which was, this little guy, he was one of I think he was like one of the original guys on the Mazeppa show, like,
Oh, really?
he sold stereo equipment and stuff. Anyway, and my memory is somewhat spotty until you get down to like kind of where the Sonic was. Now it's just an empty space, but where the Sonic was, there was a Citgo service station there for a long time through the '80s and stuff. And then if you were across the street where Weber's is,
Mhm. That's been
where
there forever.
yeah, where Weber's is in particular, there used to be a Dairy Queen right there. And
Oh.
Weber's actually, before they developed that whole little center, was actually on it was on the corner, but just to the north of that, in that same parking lot. It's like they just moved
Oh.
across the parking lot.
Oh, one thing that, I just thought of, um, a lot of people remember Claude's, the burger place,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, that was there for
yeah.
40, 50 years,
It
right?
was there a long, long time. Evidently, in the research I was doing, it was always a hamburger joint. I think originally in like the '40s, it was called Hank's. But I wanna say that sign that they used to have there said, like 1954 or something like that.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I
became Claude's and really didn't change until a couple of years ago when kind of the last heir passed away, and now it's, of all things, a, health food.
inheritance.
And yeah, inheritance
But
health.
is that not the most ironic thing?
Very ironic,
We were
very
like, I wonder what they're gonna do there with
yeah,
Claude's. It's just
yeah,
the polar opposite, health food,
pretty wild.
smoothies
Yeah.
and
So, of course, there's Claude's, and then you go, uh, back across Peoria to the east, and where Weber's is, that little strip right there, obviously Blue Moon was there, after they redid that whole center. But before they redid the center, there was like a, nightclub in there. You could go and hear real good blues bands, and, then, also there was a Army surplus, store.
I
That
love the idea of, it reminds me of, like sometimes Tulsa reminds me of Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls,
Mhm.
where if you live there long enough and you frequent the shops and whatnot long enough, people know your name,
Yeah,
and it's kind of like a one-stop shop area where you get everything you need. I mean, Utica Square
Yeah,
is kind of like that, but it's, on the more expensive, uppity side.
right.
I
It's
think
kinda
that if we
funny.
could, like, have more maybe live music, in, Brookside, it would feel even more, um,
Mm.
cozy and more of a community feel, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I think that's what is always, been kind of like the common denominator, but not as much as it once was for sure, like when the neighborhood first was kind of growing that way and really the
Mhm.
hot neighborhood probably. Um, I can remember my dad said that when he was a kid, it was like if you could get anything you needed on Brookside.
Oh, really?
It's kind of what everybody always said. Um, and really it's kind of like we've really talked about what I consider to be the heart of Brookside. And has continually evolved and stayed pretty active. Um, Very rarely empty storefronts. Um, and you go a little further south of where we've been talking and like where Westlake Hardware is, that
Mhm.
was a Safeway when I was younger, which was I mean, those are still big in the country, just not here, but grocery stores. Um, and the Reese's, was not a grocery store. I don't really remember exactly. I know, all that military housing that they turned into condos back behind is kind of I have a feeling maybe that came a little bit further west, but another thing that's interesting there on that corner where, the Circle K was, or Come and Go, whatever, most recently, and, like,
Came and went.
in Coney Islander, all in that area, when I was a real little kid, it was like an amusement park for little kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
It'd be interesting for somebody to fill in those gaps for me because I was just young enough to remember, maybe went to a birthday party or something, but I don't have a vivid memory of it. But that's pretty cool. And then,
Yeah.
obviously where Old Village is, with, Whole Foods and everything, that was originally like a Bud's grocery store and restaurants and things, and then, really from 41st South, uh, that's real spotty to me. I don't see it a whole lot different except for, like, where it is actually a whole lot different is where, like, Big restaurant is, and, that
Mhm.
whole strip there, I think there's a shoe store in there, maybe a bike shop too. Um, that was where John Zink Company was, which is just blows my mind if you think about that, because this is something that's, like, way on the outskirts of town, and was at the time. But it's one of the biggest and only, uh, gas refinery burner manufacturing companies in the world, and to think they were, you know, testing this equipment and building this equipment right there in
On
Brookside is kind
Brookside.
of amazing.
That's
Yeah,
pretty wild.
and across the
I
street from that, I have to give a shout out to the sandwich store. It was called Mr. Neil's, and it was like a
middle
sub
name.
yeah, it was like a sub sandwich shop. But then the other, and obviously all with that going away, all the infill that's happened there. And then if you go further south, toward 51st on the west side of the street, you had the Camelot Inn, which, was the big castle hotel. But
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, there was a lot of the structures are similar
I do
and
have one
won't get into
uh,
that stuff as much, but we've pretty much covered the heart of it. But yeah, go ahead.
just one question about, I remember when what Whole Foods is now. It used to be called Wild Oats,
Yeah.
and I was curious, is that the same franchise, or did they are they not connected?
No, I wanna say that, Whole Foods, I'm not really sure where they're from, but I think Wild Oats was out of Austin, and they were competing brands,
That's
early
yeah.
on, and then I think at some point, Wild Oats sold out to, um, Whole Foods, and then, of course, Whole Foods sold out to, Amazon.
Oh, Bezos. I knew it. I was gonna joke and say Bezos, and it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
It's so funny though, I remember because the brother we mentioned earlier, Sam, when he was a kid, up until around age 10, he was allergic to, like, gluten, nuts, eggs, like, dairy, everything.
yeah.
And, Wild Oats was the only place we could shop where we could get him what he needed.
We were so excited when they came to town.
Yeah.
'Cause before that, everything was mail order
I
'cause
remember
he he couldn't stomach any of the other stuff.
I remember, and this is so sketchy looking back, but, I have a vivid memory of just being at the kitchen table coloring or something, and my mom comes in with this giant box, and from China, and in the box is just this white powder, and
No, don't tell this story.
no, no, don't not the white powder you might be thinking of. It was, this gluten-free bread it was before gluten-free stuff was, like, available, at least
Right,
around here.
right.
So, she would, like I remember one time she was just slaving away. You'd mix this with water, and we had these bread molds that we would put in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
That shit tasted disgusting,
yeah. No,
but it
there
was all he could eat.
I know, it was just that poor guy.
Yeah,
And we'd send him to birthday parties with his own
angel
cake,
food cake.
and I think one time a dog ate it, and, he didn't like dogs for a long, long time after
After
that.
that, yeah. There was that one family, uh, Boulanger, that was their last name,
Uh-huh.
but that mom was so sweet. She would always make a cake special just for Sam,
Yeah,
at all of her son's birthday parties, which was really nice.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of nice folks. Well, I hope this hadn't been boring. I don't know. It's kind of been a walk down memory lane for me. I hope, it has been for you too. And I wish we had somebody sitting down with us that maybe was, about 10 years older, 15 years older than me.
Yeah.
You could really fill in a lot more blanks that I'm just, not aware of. Um,
If
but
if
anyway,
if you're one of those people, drop a comment,
yeah, yeah, for sure. On any of
correct
this
us.
stuff, you have anything new to say, and obviously too, we can't not mention like Pennington's Drive-In. Uh,
Yeah.
that was a real mainstay, and I'm sure there are a couple other places, but uh, you know, it wasn't such a big deal. It was in existence when I was younger, but it certainly wasn't, something we did on a Saturday or a Friday night, but there were an awful lot of people that would sit out on their cars from, like, 41st to 51st. They would sit down on the hoods of their cars and party, and, other cars would, like, go up and down. They'd go down to 41st, and then they'd make a big circle and come back, and they'd just do that. Um, anyway, that's why it was called the Restless Ribbon. Um,
Oh,
but, you know, after
boutique, yeah.
after talking about all these places, I'm reminded that Brookside and boutique neighborhoods are never just one thing. Brookside wasn't just Pennington's, the Brook Theater, Lewis Meyer Bookstore, or the Sunset Grill. Uh, and it's not just the restaurants and patios we see today. Brookside has always had a life of its own, always changing, but what keeps people coming back is much harder to define. For decades, Brookside has been one of Tulsa's gathering places. It's a place where people meet, they fall in love, and celebrate, laugh, and dance and raise a family. Maybe that's why we become nostalgic about places like Brookside. We're not missing the buildings, we're missing the moment in our own lives that happened there. And
It's a
every
pretty
Yeah, every generation gets its own Brookside, and that's just how cities work, and that's how memories become history. And if you've got a Brookside story or remember something we left out, we'd love to hear it. And you just reach out at info@parisoftheprairie.us. And remember to get out and do something you love to do, or try to do something completely new to you.